2 astronauts currently on board the International Space Station may have to stay there until next year. What was supposed to be an 8-day trip to space is now turning into an 8-month ordeal. NASA has announced that it is keeping 2 astronauts on the space station until February, opting not to risk bringing them back on Boeing's troubled Starliner capsule. This decision has reportedly left Boeing employees humiliated. NASA's choice comes after another delay in the debut of Boeing's Starliner capsule. This setback led to disappointment at Cape Canaveral in Florida, where NASA had to once again scrub the first launch of the Boeing Starliner spacecraft with astronauts on board. The situation has become so dire that NASA announced it would use Elon Musk SpaceX to rescue the 2 astronauts who were stranded on the International Space Station due to issues with Boeing's Starliner space capsule. A Boeing employee, speaking on the condition of anonymity, expressed the uncertainty surrounding the future of the Starliner program. While the current circumstances may not look promising, the employee noted that the final outcome is still unknown. Boeing has faced numerous technical challenges in developing this vehicle, dating back to its initial efforts in 2019. The 2 astronauts were launched into space in June and were supposed to be back in time for the 4th of July. However, NASA has now stated that they will remain in space through the holidays and into the new year. Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams, who went up to the ISS in June for what was supposed to be an 8-day mission, will now have to wait another 6 months until a SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft can bring them back safely. The delay is due to their original ride, Boeing Starliner, which is leaking helium and has problems with its thrusters. A staffer from Boeing's space program based in Florida described the decision as the latest setback for the aerospace giant, which has already been dealing with backlash from several commercial flight incidents earlier this year. The employee stated, "We have had so many embarrassments lately, we're under a microscope. This just made it 100 times worse." The anonymous worker also mentioned a general dislike for SpaceX within Boeing, saying, "We hate SpaceX. We talk trash about them all the time, and now they're bailing us out. It's shameful. I'm embarrassed, I'm horrified." Morale at Boeing is reportedly at an all-time low, with some workers blaming NASA for their current predicament. Despite this, Boeing maintains that its Starliner craft could safely return the astronauts to Earth after placing them on the ISS during its maiden crewed flight in June. Nevertheless, NASA chose to turn to SpaceX after 2 months of testing revealed ongoing issues with the Starliner, which remains docked at the ISS. The craft had experienced a helium leak just before liftoff, and the leaks worsened once docked. It also suffered several thruster failures, which, although somewhat mitigated, still prompted NASA to consider a safer alternative. NASA concluded that the safest course of action would be for Wilmore and Williams to return to Earth as part of SpaceX's Dragon Crew 9 mission, scheduled for February 2025. A Boeing employee explained, "We believed that Starliner could bring them home safely, but NASA didn't want to chance it. They have their own PR issues and don't need 2 dead astronauts." The employee stressed that Boeing would not have recommended using the Starliner if they thought it would be unsafe. Steve Stick, NASA's Commercial Crew Program Manager, noted that the discussions with Boeing ultimately involved a disagreement about acceptable levels of risk. While Boeing did not publicly comment on NASA's decision to rely on SpaceX, the company stated that its priority remains ensuring that the Starliner can return to Earth intact. Boeing reiterated its focus on crew and spacecraft safety, despite facing $1.5 billion in cost overruns on top of the original $4.5 billion contract with NASA. NASA hopes to make the Starliner a secondary means of transport to the ISS, alongside SpaceX's Crew Dragon. Space exploration has always been a realm marked by extraordinary achievements and formidable challenges. From the historic Apollo missions to today's era of private space ventures, humanity's quest to reach the stars has seen both remarkable successes and harrowing setbacks. In the contemporary space race, Elon Musk's SpaceX has emerged as a significant force, transforming the industry with its innovative approach. Yet, alongside the accolades and milestones, there are stories of failures that the public often overlooks. One such story involves the Boeing Starliner, a spacecraft designed to transport astronauts to and from the ISS. Recently, Elon Musk brought attention to a concerning issue involving the Starliner and the astronauts left stranded because of its deficiencies. This revelation highlights the inherent risks of space travel and raises critical questions about the future of human space exploration. In the early 2000s, space exploration was largely the domain of government agencies like NASA, Roscosmos, and ESA. However, this landscape began to change with the entry of private companies. Founded in 2002, SpaceX was among the first private firms to make significant progress, driven by a vision to reduce space transportation costs and eventually enable the colonization of Mars. During this period, Boeing, a long-standing aerospace company, was also seeking to make its mark in space exploration. In partnership with NASA, Boeing developed the CST-100 Starliner, intended to transport astronauts to the ISS and beyond. This initiative put Boeing in direct competition with SpaceX's Dragon capsule, sparking a fierce rivalry as both companies vied to prove their technology was superior. This competition was part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, which aimed to restore the United States' ability to launch astronauts into space from American soil, following the retirement of the Space Shuttle in 2011. The program sought to foster innovation by funding multiple private companies to develop crewed spacecraft. Boeing's Starliner program, however, had a rocky start. The spacecraft, intended to be a reliable and safe means of transporting astronauts, encountered numerous technical issues and delays. In December 2019, the Starliner's first uncrewed orbital flight test, OFT-1, failed due to a software glitch that caused the spacecraft to miss its intended orbit. Although it returned to Earth safely, the mission was considered only a partial success, leading to significant scrutiny over the encountered issues. An investigation into the OFT-1 failure revealed multiple errors in the Starliner's software, some of which could have led to catastrophic failure if not identified and corrected. Concerns over the Starliner's safety and reliability emerged, prompting calls for further testing before the spacecraft could be approved for crewed missions. Despite these setbacks, Boeing remained committed to the Starliner program. In 2021, the company attempted a second uncrewed test flight, OFT-2, but this mission also faced technical difficulties, including issues with the propulsion system, leading to further postponements. As Boeing worked to resolve the Starliner's problems, these delays began to have serious real-world consequences. In early 2023, a group of astronauts found themselves stranded on the ISS due to the ongoing Starliner issues. These astronauts had been scheduled to return to Earth aboard the Starliner, but repeated delays and technical failures indefinitely postponed their return. This situation posed a significant challenge for NASA and its partners, as the ISS has limited capacity to support astronauts for extended periods. Supplies began to dwindle, and concerns about the astronauts' health grew. The psychological strain of being stranded in space, far from their families, with no clear return date, added to the severity of the situation. In response, NASA and SpaceX developed a contingency plan to bring the stranded astronauts back to Earth. SpaceX's Dragon capsule, which had been successfully conducting crewed missions since 2020, was prepared for an emergency rescue mission. However, this plan was not without risks. The Dragon capsule had not been specifically designed for such a mission, raising concerns about the feasibility of transferring astronauts from the ISS to the Dragon under emergency conditions. As the situation grew more critical, Elon Musk made a public revelation that stunned the space community. During a press conference in early 2024, Musk announced that SpaceX had uncovered evidence of significant design flaws in the Starliner. In a startling revelation, Elon Musk disclosed that the Boeing Starliner design had undisclosed flaws that posed a significant risk to the safety of any crew aboard. Musk claimed that SpaceX engineers, who had been working with NASA on a contingency plan to rescue astronauts stranded on the International Space Station, ISS, discovered these issues during their analysis of the spacecraft's design. They identified multiple vulnerabilities in the Starliner's propulsion and life support systems. Musk warned that these vulnerabilities could lead to catastrophic failures under certain conditions, endangering the lives of astronauts on board. Musk's revelation sparked a firestorm of controversy. Both Boeing and NASA quickly responded, insisting that the Starliner was safe and that any issues identified by SpaceX were being addressed. Despite these assurances, the damage was done. The public and media began questioning Boeing's transparency and the overall safety of the Starliner program. The fallout from Musk's revelation was immediate and far-reaching. Already under intense scrutiny, the Starliner program faced even greater criticism from the public and government officials. There were calls for a comprehensive review of the program, with some suggesting that the Starliner should be scrapped altogether in favor of relying solely on SpaceX's Dragon capsule for crewed missions. In response, Boeing launched an internal investigation to address the concerns raised by Musk, working closely with NASA to implement additional safety measures and conduct further testing of the Starliner systems. However, these efforts did little to restore public confidence, leaving the future of the Starliner uncertain. The situation also had broader implications for NASA's Commercial Crew program, which aimed to foster competition and innovation by partnering with private companies. The challenges faced by Boeing Starliner raised questions about whether the program's goals were being met and whether private companies were being held to the same safety standards as government-led missions. Amidst the controversy, NASA and SpaceX pressed forward with their efforts to rescue the stranded astronauts on the ISS. In March 2024, SpaceX successfully launched a Dragon capsule to bring the astronauts home. This rescue mission was a complex and delicate operation, requiring precise coordination between the ISS crew, NASA's mission control, and the SpaceX team. The Dragon capsule docked with the ISS, and the stranded astronauts were safely transferred aboard. After spending several months in space, the astronauts finally returned to Earth, bringing an end to their ordeal. The successful completion of the rescue mission was hailed as a triumph for SpaceX and a testament to the company's capabilities. While the rescue mission highlighted SpaceX's reliability, it also underscored the challenges facing the Commercial Crew program. There were growing calls for NASA to re-evaluate its approach to commercial spaceflight and consider alternative options to ensure the safety and reliability of crewed missions. The events surrounding the Boeing Starliner and the stranded astronauts had broader implications for the future of space exploration. A key lesson from this episode was the importance of transparency and accountability in the space industry. The revelation of flaws in the Starliner design underscored the need for rigorous oversight and independent verification of safety standards, particularly when human lives are at stake. The controversy also raised questions about the role of private companies in space exploration. Some critics argued that NASA should take a more hands-on approach to ensure that safety and reliability are prioritized over profit and competition. Moreover, the situation had implications for international space collaboration. The ISS is a joint project involving multiple space agencies, and the stranded astronauts included representatives from different countries. The challenges faced during the rescue underscored the importance of international cooperation and the need for clear protocols and contingency plans in case of emergencies. As the dust settled from the Starliner controversy, both Boeing and SpaceX faced critical decisions about their future in the space industry. Boeing prioritized restoring confidence in the Starliner program by addressing technical issues and enhancing safety measures. However, it remained uncertain whether Starliner could regain its position as a viable option for crewed spaceflight. For SpaceX, the success of the Dragon capsule in the rescue mission solidified its reputation as a leader in the space industry. With a proven track record of safe and reliable crewed missions, SpaceX was well positioned to continue its dominance in the Commercial Crew program. Nonetheless, the company faced the challenge of maintaining its high standards while pursuing ambitious projects such as the Starship program and the colonization of Mars. The broader space industry also felt the impact of the Starliner controversy. It highlighted the need for continued innovation and investment in space technology, alongside maintaining rigorous safety standards. As space exploration evolved, the industry would need to balance the drive for progress with the need to ensure the safety and well-being of those venturing into space. The Boeing Starliner controversy served as a stark reminder of the challenges and risks associated with space exploration. While the space industry has made incredible strides in recent years, the events surrounding the stranded astronauts underscored the importance of transparency, accountability, and safety in all aspects of space travel. One of the key lessons learned was the need for rigorous oversight and independent verification of safety standards. As private companies play an increasingly prominent role in space exploration, it is essential that they are held to the highest standards to ensure the safety of crewed missions. This will require ongoing collaboration between government agencies, private companies, and independent experts to identify and address potential risks. Another important lesson was the need for clear protocols and contingency plans in the event of an emergency. The rescue of the stranded astronauts was a complex and delicate operation that required precise coordination and quick decision-making. Moving forward, it will be crucial for space agencies and companies to develop and regularly update contingency plans to be prepared for any potential challenges that may arise during space missions. Finally, the events surrounding the Starliner highlighted the importance of international cooperation in space exploration. The ISS is a joint project involving multiple countries, and the challenges faced during the rescue mission underscored the need for clear communication and collaboration between international partners. As space exploration continues to expand beyond low Earth orbit, it will be essential for countries and space agencies to work together to ensure the safety and success of future missions. Looking ahead, it is clear that space exploration will continue to be a frontier marked by both incredible opportunities and significant challenges. The events surrounding the Boeing Starliner serve as a reminder of the risks involved in space travel but also highlight the resilience and ingenuity of the space community. The future of space exploration will likely be shaped by continued innovation and investment in new technologies. Companies like SpaceX are already pushing the boundaries of what is possible with ambitious projects like Starship and the goal of establishing a human presence on Mars. At the same time, other private companies and government agencies are working on their projects, from lunar exploration to the development of new space habitats. As the space industry continues to evolve, it will be important to balance the drive for progress with the need to ensure the safety and well-being of those who venture into space. This will require ongoing collaboration between all stakeholders in the space community, as well as a commitment to maintaining the highest standards of safety. In conclusion, the revelation of the terrifying discovery on the Boeing Starliner and the subsequent rescue of the stranded astronauts serve as a powerful reminder of the challenges and risks associated with space exploration. However, they also underscore the incredible potential of the space industry to overcome these challenges and continue pushing the boundaries of what is possible. As we look to the future, it is clear that space exploration will remain one of humanity's most exciting and challenging endeavors, one that will continue to captivate our imaginations for generations to come. Chinese nationals made up more than half the passengers, among them a group of renowned calligraphers returning from an exhibition. 2 Iranians traveling under false pretenses, an Indonesian beginning a new career, and a Malaysian couple returning from their honeymoon were also there. Fahi Abdul Hamd, the co-pilot, and seasoned pilot Zahari Ahmed Shah, with over 30 years of service, made up the crew. Shipments of electronics and mangosteens, a fruit with a vivid purple hue and sweet taste, were among the mysterious items in the cargo. However, the ones that concerned real people struck a deeper chord. Philip Wood, an IBM executive who was considering relocating to Malaysia, and Patrick Gomez, a flight supervisor with 35 years of experience, were among the passengers. Every passenger on that trip had a distinct backstory and unmet expectations. The extraordinary multinational and transoceanic search for MH370 was conducted, and many possibilities surfaced, from hijacking to mechanical failure, but none offered a satisfactory explanation. 10 years later, a breakthrough was finally made when the plane's final resting place was found deep within the ocean, providing insight into the events of that tragic voyage. As was previously mentioned, on March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 carrying 239 passengers vanished from sight less than 40 minutes into its journey from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Following the plane's abrupt disappearance, a huge search and rescue effort costing millions of dollars took place, but it ended up raising more questions than it answered. The airline's lack of information left the relatives of those on board struggling with hopelessness. Their agony was incomparable and served as a sobering reminder of the personal cost of such calamities. Even when official attempts ceased, specialists and amateur detectives continued with their search. After a decade, the question still stands: what happened to MH370? Some, like the former British aerospace engineer Richard Godfrey, think we're getting near to the truth. Godfrey has spent the better part of the last 10 years working on this mystery, believing that the location of the plane might be found with one more focused search. This is also the opinion of Vincent Lin, a former University of Tasmania researcher. According to him, the wreckage is located in a deep trench on the same longitude as Penang, some 6,000 meters below the surface and 1,500 kilometers west of Perth. This theory fits facts gathered over many years of ineffective official searches. The final known communication with MH370 was during a customary aviation procedure called an airspace handover, but as soon as the aircraft entered Vietnamese territory, it lost all communication and disappeared from public radar. The enigma is further compounded by the analysis of radar and satellite data that indicates the aircraft flew for a further 7 hours. The search was taken up by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau at the request of the Malaysian authorities. Experts and search teams searched the seas, examined data, and pursued every clue for 1,046 days without stopping. The last known acts of the aircraft were disclosed in the Australian Transport Safety Bureau's final report. For 7 more hours after its final contact with air traffic control, MH370 persisted in its flight. It was finally located off the coast of Sumatra before it turned southward into the Indian Ocean. The plane was never located despite a massive search that covered millions of square miles of ocean. In this day of sophisticated technology and surveillance, why did a contemporary airliner vanish, and how could this have happened? When there are ambiguous responses, people fill them in. This has happened in the cases of 9/11, Princess Diana's passing, and JFK's assassination. MH370, however, doesn't even have a simple narrative to challenge. The plane seemed to have disappeared into a different dimension. At first, a lot of theories were proposed. Some speculated that it may have been shot down, like Korean Air Flight 007 in 1983 or Iran Air Flight 655 in 1988, while others felt it had landed west of Australia. But MH370 theories started to wane when Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 was shot down over Ukraine. The fact is that terrible mishaps do happen occasionally. When a plane is shot down, the perpetrators typically come forward quite fast. It is unlikely that a nation could conceal a Boeing 777's demise for several months. According to one scenario, MH370 was misidentified as MH17, which was shot down over Ukraine many months later. Some claim that images taken at the crash site showed MH370, citing details such as window patterns and the position of the Malaysian flag as proof. These assertions were refuted by specialists, who pointed out that the two planes were distinct models with unique characteristics. Another idea concerned a pro-Russian rebel leader who asserted that the remains from the MH17 crash site had been dead for days, sparking rumors that MH370 was filled to the brim with corpses and used to replace MH17. Aviation specialists have mostly disregarded this theory. Satellite data and the last known position of the aircraft led retired U.S. Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney to suspect that MH370 was flown to Pakistan in preparation for a possible assault on the U.S. or its allies. Inmarsat, however, refuted this and said the plane went down in the southern Indian Ocean. There were rumors that the disappearance was connected to the 20 Freescale semiconductor personnel that were on board and that they might have important industry secrets. The U.S. government may have hijacked the aircraft, according to rumors, to keep this information from getting to China. An alternative theory held that the jet was hijacked by the Chinese government in order to question the Freescale personnel about U.S. espionage. There is another argument that suggests Iranian citizens gained entry to Freescale's technical expertise by using passports that were stolen. Freescale verified that the personnel on board were technical staff members who were en route to an evaluation site for semiconductor manufacturing. A semiconductor patent that was unrelated to military use was cited by conspiracy theorists. Remarkably, the missing plane did not contain any of the 4 patent holders. A cyber hijack has also been taken into consideration. Security specialist Hugo Teso gave a demonstration of how to use an Android phone and a bespoke app to hack virtual planes. The Independent called this discovery terrifying. Expert in counterterrorism Dr. Sally Livesley proposed that MH370 may have been taken over by a USB stick or smartphone on certified flight hardware. According to the FAA, such a hack is not conceivable. The autopilot can be overridden by the pilot if needed. Pilots would probably talk to each other or deal with the problem if hackers took over. Another option is a mechanical breakdown, or maybe there was some involvement from Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah. According to flight safety expert Steve Landels, no theory has been able to satisfactorily explain the loss of MH370. But what if the gains in aviation safety are not all that there is to see? Click subscribe to continue watching. At 12:41 a.m. local time, the aircraft took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. It was last picked up by military radar at 2:22 a.m. Based on scant satellite data, the aircraft made mysterious twists and headed south for approximately 6 hours. A Boeing 777 can be steered in 3 different ways: manually, with the control wheel, or via the autopilot and navigation computer. Why were there no radio communications if no one was available to fly? There are several electrical backup systems on the Boeing 777. A battery that was linked to the captain's instruments may be used to make an emergency call. In the event that it fails, a ram air turbine can supply electricity for necessities such as a radio. Pilots may have to escape in the event of a serious cockpit fire, although it is improbable that the aircraft could continue to fly for several hours after the incident. Still, it's disconcerting to wonder if Zahari Shah was at fault. There are very few pilot suicide events in history, just 8 are listed by the U.S. Aviation Safety Network. The loss of MH370 resulted in important modifications to aviation safety. The International Civil Aviation Organization's new criteria for tracking were put into place. Aircraft must now be tracked by airlines every minute if they are in distress, and every 15 minutes otherwise. This should aid in averting disappearances in the future. The massive Indian Ocean. The search for MH370 involved multiple nations and incurred significant financial costs. Despite these efforts, the primary wreckage has not been located, and it remains unclear why the plane vanished. Families of those on board continue to seek clarification and resolution. There is a lot of discussion surrounding the possibility that someone on board, possibly the captain, caused the disappearance intentionally. This unsettling implication points to difficult to understand premeditation and control. The mystery is heightened by the lack of a distress call and an obvious reason. Suicide by a pilot is rarely seen in aviation, and when it does occur, there is usually a quick, straightforward crash. However, in this case, MH370 continued to fly for hours, leading to various speculations regarding the pilot's motivations. One important piece of evidence is the captain's flight simulator, which shows a path resembling that of MH370 as it entered the Indian Ocean. This suggests preparation or practice, but it raises the question, why would this be the choice of a pilot who seemed to be in no personal crisis? A research study on pilot mental health was cited in the BBC MH370 program, revealing that a significant portion of pilots suffered from depression. Although there is no clear connection to MH370, it does emphasize the pressures and mental health issues faced by pilots. The aviation community is a close-knit and supportive group, with pilots having access to mental health resources and undergoing routine psychological exams. Safety and well-being are the top concerns for both staff and passengers. As someone who follows aviation news, the loss of MH370 is deeply troubling. It is distressing to consider that a pilot might choose to end their journey in the ocean, which goes against both passenger trust and aviation standards. Vincent Lin and Richard Godfrey have invested considerable time in this quest, both sharing a common objective of locating MH370. They operate independently in their investigations. Godfrey examines WSPR transmissions, a kind of radio transmission that is interfered with by large objects like airplanes. He believes he can determine the plane's route by analyzing these interruptions and suggests that the wreckage might be found with one more search in a designated location, roughly 970 miles west of Perth. Lin focuses on the history of the pilot, highlighting an unplanned diversion over Penang, the pilot's hometown. This adds a more personal element, suggesting that Zahari Shah may have wanted to make one last trip to his hometown. Lin bases his theory on data from the pilot's flight simulator, which indicates the final location is within 186 miles of the anticipated route. Like Richard Godfrey, Mike Lin pursues the truth with unwavering determination. Since the disappearance, they have gathered a significant amount of evidence. Lin believes the pilot left anomalies in the satellite images by flying within clouds to obscure the route. These irregularities imply that the aircraft's last known location was near Penang on the same longitude. Experts assume the plane fell after running out of fuel, which is why the search for MH370 has focused on the 7th arc, a location based on satellite data analysis. This arc assumed an instantaneous high-speed dive that would have left behind a significant amount of wreckage. However, Lin argues that this theory is incorrect, pointing out that no evidence has been found because the plane is likely in a region with inadequate surveying. Lin calls for an international science review group to evaluate the evidence and recommend an alternative search strategy. Finding MH370 is about more than locating the missing plane, it is about resolving the unanswered questions that continue to haunt the families of the 239 passengers on board. The question remains whether the captain was responsible for the plane's disappearance and who was in control at the time it vanished. To solve this enigma and provide evidence for the courts, the black box and wreckage are crucial. The black boxes or flight recorders are essential for understanding flight events, particularly in accidents. The low battery life of the underwater locating beacon, ULB, on MH370 poses challenges for finding the recorders. Typically, ULB signals have a detection range of 2,000 to 3,000 meters, even though recorders can withstand depths up to 4,500 meters. The cockpit voice recorder, even if found, only retains 2 hours of data, which are continuously overwritten. In the case of flight MH370, significant events occurred more than 2 hours before the end of the flight, highlighting the need for longer recording times. Calls to extend the life of ULB batteries emerged partly due to the 30-day battery life of MH370's beacons. It took 2 years to find the recorders after the 2009 crash of Air France Flight 447. Proposals to improve battery life or ejectable recorders had been suggested as early as 1987 but were only implemented after the disappearance of MH370. The European Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, recommended a new longer-range beacon for use on ocean flights by 2020, along with a requirement for ULB batteries to last 90 days. In response to the MH370 tragedy, the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, revised the Chicago Convention in 2016. All new aircraft built after 2020 must have cockpit voice recorders that can store a minimum of 25 hours of data, covering all phases of flight. Additionally, any new aircraft design certified after 2020 must include a method to recover flight recorders or data before sinking. The losses of MH370 and Air France Flight 447 were referenced in the 2015 safety recommendations from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, which called for tamper-resistant flight recorders and transponders, crash-protected cockpit image recorders, and the ability to locate aircraft debris in remote or underwater areas.